So, welcome back to another webinar for What's New for Vault Professional 2025, the 2025 release. So, we're going to start the same as last week with just a little bit of housekeeping. So, if you do have any questions throughout, please pop them in the chat window. There's also a question window as well if you just want to ask them directly within there. And that's for both the What's New in Vault and the Sevilla Vault questions as well. So if you pop them in, we'll have a little bit of time at the end where we'll go through both of them. And again, same as last week, I'll pop up my personal details. So if you do have any queries that you want to come directly or interested in doing anything about any Vault upgrades or something like that, then you can pop them to me directly. So again, if you didn't attend last week or you haven't met me before, my name is Jason Kelly and I'm one of the application specialists here at Symmetry. And I've been working in this channel for about 7 years now. My key focuses are around the kind of Inventor and Vault and all the add-ins, so kind of the different areas that sit within there, and then also our own brand Sevilla products, which we're going to be talking through one of those today. Okay, and that's just going to help you automate some of your processes. So what we're going to look through, just a little bit of an agenda. The first thing that we're going to run through is a little bit about the main new tool in Vault 2025, and that's the email notifications. We'll then, similar to last week, jump into kind of the different areas. So we'll start off with the administration area of Vault, so how administrators, some permissions that have changed, and kind of a little bit more what's changing behind the scenes. Similar to the security, we'll have a little kind of look at some of the tools that they've introduced in security, and throughout as well, we'll have a look at obviously some general enhancements. And throughout this, I've kind of tried to pop in some of the 2024 point releases as well, just to make you aware of some of the changes that came in kind of the later releases in 2024. Just kind of point out some of the key features within there. And then again, my colleague Graham is going to have a little look at behind the scenes about the move to .NET 8. And then we'll finish up by giving you a bit of an introduction to our own brand product, Sevilla Vault, just having a look at some of the functions and some of the tools that are available within there, and kind of why you may utilize it on top of the Vault product. So Autodesk have looked at improving kind of in 3 main areas in Vault 2025, and this is all based off of ideas from the forum. Okay, so if you do have any ideas for Autodesk or for, feel free to send them our way, and we can look at putting them on the forum pages. But also feel free to upvote on there as well, because that's going to help make the developers aware that there's going to be kind of more ideas and things like that ready for you. So as I say, the 3 main areas that they've looked at this year is security, kind of bolstering those security methods, looking at streamlining processes, and overall kind of in general improving the user experience to make Vault as easy to use as possible. So as I mentioned, one of the main tools that was introduced in this 2025 release is lifecycle email notifications. So what I'm going to do is just give you a bit of an introduction to it, and then we'll talk a little bit about the configuration. But just to make you aware that the lifecycle email notifications are also in Sevilla Vault and have been for kind of a number of releases now. So what I'll do is later on, when we talk about the Sevilla Vault side, I'll talk about the differences between the two and how they kind of compare and what we've kind of learned from having this kind of core product. So let's have a little look into it then. So the lifecycle email notifications, what I've given you up on screen here is just some kind of core life cycle. Okay, so just a simple work in progress to check to released process. So what you might be looking to do is when moving from work in progress to check, normally you'd have to manually let the checker know that they have work that's available to them for checking. Okay, so then you just have to let them know, or if they're going to an approver, you'd have to notify them, or if you're looking to release the files, you'd have to maybe notify the sales team to let them know that that product has now been released. So what you can do now is you can get it to send emails. Okay, so it will send an email automatically, so you don't have to do it manually. You don't forget about it. It kind of keeps that consistency and keeps that kind of reliability within there, so that you, as you're kind of moving through the kind of the life cycle process, you can kind of work through. So you can see on these kind of in between lines, when you're actually changing the state, it will run that. Now, what it will do is, if the example you're sending it to the checker, just to let them know that they have kind of work to check. Um, you can send it to a group of people. Okay, so you can send it to the whole group of users within there. Okay, another example is you could be going to checking to release, and as I say, you could be going to a sales team, you could be going to a generic kind of order processing team, something like that, just to let them know that there are files there that are ready. It could also be letting the CAD user know that their work has been checked and has been approved and that it's gone through. Now, as I say, that is to kind of a general overall group of users. So how can this be kind of set up or configured? The first thing is that you'll need a notification account. Okay, so you need to enable a notification email account, and that is configured using an SMTP server. Okay, so that will need to be configured in the background. It can also run using an SSL connection. So that's just going to make everything a little bit more secure, a little bit more kind of reliable. So the kind of the handshake between the server and the end user keeps your data more secure. And again, that can be turned off or turned on depending on your IT requirements within there. So a little bit on the settings then. One of the main things is obviously what state it's going from and what state it's going to. So you can send different emails at different points. So when you're going to work in progress to checking, you might want to send a different email or turn it on. But when you're going back from release to work in progress, you might not want to enable it. You might want to only enable it at a certain point. So when you're as an admin, you need to kind of decide and choose which state is going from and which state is going to. It doesn't have to be kind of across the board. Every email, every time you change state, it sends an email. We can also define a trigger time. Okay, so by default, Autodesk have set that to 10 minutes. So on the server, it's going to run a server task every 10 minutes to just check if there's any emails or any state changes that need to be sent out. And that can be changed from anything to checking every 1 minute to checking every day, so that it just sends a notification at the end of every day to let you know that that's on there. And obviously, that's just going to change the kind of the service speed and things like that. What's also quite a nice feature that they've added is test emails. So you can actually check that you don't have to, if you're an admin, you don't have to set up a file. Okay, you can actually just and then change the lifecycle state to test it. You can just test the email, and that can be testing whether the actual email sends or what is contained in the email. So you can actually see what an email is going to look like if you're running off an HTML code or something like that. We can also change the email itself, as I just mentioned. So Autodesk have included a standard template in there, and that can include things like different properties to let them know kind of what file they're checking. It can check links to the file. And you can also amend kind of the body of the template to say, hi, this file needs checking, or hi, this file is ready to this file has been checked and approved and now is moved back to release state. Okay. So you can completely customize it, or you can completely customize it yourself and write your own. Okay, so it's quite a nice way of doing it. And you can see it's all pulled through, and it will send an email to the email alias in your group name or the user profile's name. And you can select as many or as little of these as possible, but it will just send it out to that as many users or groups as you need within there. Okay, so I think overall this feature is just going to help you stop kind of missing files sitting in the same state. It's just going to give you overall a bit more awareness of where files are at in a particular life cycle, so that both the CAD team and any checkers and approvers or alternative teams in the business are aware of where the files are at and what the state what needs to happen as a next step. Okay, so moving into some more kind of the administration changes, and there's been two kind of key changes to purge. So you can now purge folders and you can purge on lifecycle transition. So let's have a little look at purge folders to start with. And it's a very similar function to kind of purging your files and items. Now, this kind of previously you had two options to purge. You could either purge the whole vault, okay, which would purge everything within there, or you could purge using just individual files, again, as an administrator. But now you have a bit more control. Say you've been working on a particular project folder for quite a while, and you don't necessarily need all of the data within that file, all of the work in progress data or something like that. You could choose to purge that whole folder, and it will start to clear space on the server using that kind of selective server task. Now, what's kind of great about this is it purges using the lifecycle definition criteria. So I'll just quickly talk about that. So if you go into edit your life cycles, what you can do is you can change how many files are removed. So for example, in a work in progress lifecycle state, you don't necessarily need to keep every single version that you've checked in or checked out. You might only want to keep the last version or the first version and the last version. Okay, because you might have checked it in and out 100 times. So you might have 100 versions in there that are kind of unnecessary. So what you can do is you can set it up, but um, so you can use your release data as well. So you might want to keep all of the release data, whereas obviously your work in progress, you don't want to kind of keep all of that. So it might be that you choose kind of different options for different life cycle states. And purging the folder is going to go down to each life cycle state and take out that necessary data. And as I say, this is still an admin function. So purging that whole folder is either done as an admin or a project admin. It can't just be completed by anyone. So the second purge that we're going to look at is to purge on lifecycle transitions. And I think this one's going to be a lot more useful for people stopping the kind of large annual or biannual purges that you're running. Because if you are running a large purge annually, it might have to be done over a weekend. You might have to run testing on it, and it can take quite a while and quite a lot of resource to make sure that you get that purge right with all of the kind of the criteria. What you can do now is you can see if you're moving to, for example, a release state, maybe you're going to from approval to released, so the files at released, you can choose to run the purge function. Okay. And what that will do is every time it releases a particular file, it's going to purge out any of the kind of data again based off of that life cycle transition state. So it could be on release that you're purging out all of the work in progress data, so you're not keeping all of that kind of excess data, and that's just going to help you kind of keep on top of all of your processes. And that kind of both purge options there give you benefits for improving server speed, improving server performance, and also maybe not necessarily having a high spec server for future releases, because obviously your file store size is going to be a lot more reduced as you're kind of running through or keeping on top of purging files out. So another admin tool that we're looking at, or that they've introduced, was actually introduced in the 2024.2 point release. Okay, so I just thought this one was quite a nice one, especially for admins that are looking to kind of keep core functionality and kind of keep consistency in your business, for setting up your saved searches, views, and shortcuts. So what you can do is if you've got, for example, a new user starting, you could have a distributed search set up so that they know that they've got kind of a core starting point for all of their searches. So one of those searches could be, right, if you're a checker and they're a new user starting in their checking work, that you've got someone the engineer can to check as a property criteria within there, and that the file extension contains a drawing. So when they click on that, it's going to bring up the list of all of those search files. Okay. And previously, you would have had to go through every single machine and set that up. So if they don't have any Vault experience, you kind of got that core setup within there so that they can just go, right, well, you just click on the distributed search and it will bring up kind of your core saved searches within there. Same as views and shortcuts. If you're wanting to set up a view with kind of your core properties within there as a company, you're wanting to show all of the properties in that kind of main view, you can set it up so that again you have a company set of views that they can work on. Now, what's great about this is you can also still set up your kind of standard um, searches and things like that. So on each machine, users can still set up their own searches, but they've got kind of a good starting point within there. So moving into security then, and we've got kind of two features within here. The first one is our password policy. So this is for your Vault accounts. So in Vault, you have three main types of accounts. You've got your Autodesk accounts, which you can set up through your Autodesk logins, and that can actually create or you can utilize single sign-on for that. You've also got your Windows accounts, which you can set up kind of password policies through your IT privileges. But in the Vault accounts, there was no kind of core function for setting up password policies. So what you can do now is it will now give you the option to set up different options. So you can choose the minimum password length, whether you want them to have lower or uppercase characters, and numbers or special characters. So again, that's just going to improve the kind of security levels as a team, making sure that you've got the setup. And what's great about this is that if you do turn this on, when the user signs in, the first thing, you're not going to have to go through and set up everyone's password again. It will prompt them to reset their password if it doesn't meet the password policy that you initially set. Okay. Now this can also be great for the Vault Gateway as well within there. Okay, because the Vault Gateway does have a password minimum requirements. So you could set it up to the minimum requirements of the gateway if you are connecting in through the gateway as well. So another security area that was improved in 2024.1 was group managers. Okay, so group managers is essentially you can now set up kind of your team leaders to assign or permissions without giving them full admin permissions of Vault. So what they can do is they can assign members to the group and they can view group profile attributes. Okay, so if, for example, you've got maybe one person who's the admin of Vault and they go on holiday, you don't have to then go right. Well, whoever the team leader is or whoever's next in line, we don't have to give them full Vault permissions. We can just assign them group manager status, and that they can then add and remove people from the group. So if a new starter comes in or something like that, you've got someone that can add and remove people from that particular group within there. So it just kind of bolsters that security for your groups. Okay, so the last three things that I'm going to talk through for the what's new in the 2025 release are the kind of general enhancements. So the first one is a criteria-based search. So criteria-based search is for your quick search. So your quick search sits in the top right-hand corner of your main kind of area within Vault. And what you can do now is you can now apply specific criteria. Whereas previously you did have a few options you could set up using your Booleans, so asterisks or hashtags, or you could use this little kind of two drop down arrow here, and that would give you the list of kind of typing in properties. You couldn't set up criteria without going into your advanced kind of find option. So what you can do now is you can now save a search in your advanced search area. And you can see in the example here, what we've given is searching for assembly files, drawing files, or part files within there. Okay, so if, for example, you're wanting to search Vault, but only for assembly files, previously you would have had to either do that in the two arrow drop down, or you'd have to do that in an advanced search. But now you've got that saved search within there, you could just type in a quick search, turn on this criteria, and then it will search for that. Another great example of this is if you are searching for someone with, say, I'm searching for something that I've worked on in the last 30 days, you could set it up so that it searches or a save search is set up for that. Turn that criteria on, then you can search, and you don't have to bring up everyone else's data. It just gives you kind of a quick option in your quick search toolbar to kind of add criteria from within there. Okay, so another tool, a bit more of a kind of a generic one, is the get folder option, and I'm quite glad they've added this in. This was introduced in the 2024.1 release. So previously, the get option obviously downloads all of your data that you've selected on, including kind of children files. But sometimes you don't necessarily need to download the data when you're creating a new file. You just want to get the folder structure so that you can then save the file in your local workspace and then check that into Vault, making sure it's in the correct location. So previously, what you would have had to do is kind of generate that folder structure by typing in the names of the folders, okay, doing it a manual way. And obviously that comes with a human error. If you put in a double space or misspell something, it's going to create a whole new folder structure for you in Vault. The other alternative method was to use this go to work in folder option, but that would bring up a file explorer. And if you were doing that multiple times, you'd just be constantly bringing up file explorers. So they've actually just added in a quick use button for that. So the get folder option will just essentially get the folder structure. It's not going to pull any files within there. It's just going to pull the folder structure down so that you know you've got an exact match between the local workspace and Vault. So when you check it in, you're checking it into that correct location within there. Okay, and the final thing I'm just going to run through is the thin client. So the thin client has had a few kind of minor changes. The first one is now you can add in the company logo in the top left-hand corner. Now, this seems like quite a basic one, but it actually can be quite useful as a visual aid. So if you've got multiple vaults, you could have different icons for different vaults appearing in that top left-hand corner, so that you're kind of aware of what vault you're logged into. Could be for you're working with two different companies, or your non-CAD users who are logging into the thin client are using kind of different icons for different companies. They can see what vault they're logged into just to make them aware. It gives them just a little bit of a kind of a reference in the top corner. Again, you can change kind of workspace locations. So for the people who aren't using Vault regularly or are only using the thin client, what you can do is you can now set the workspace location as your default location. So in your projects folder, because they may not necessarily want to see all of the content center files or the library files or the templates. So what it will do is it will just change your landing page to the default location so they can just see the list of files within there. Okay, and that is in your admin settings. Another one again to kind of help with the kind of the ease for kind of your non-CAD users or the people who aren't using it regularly is to hide different workspaces. So you can hide now the file, item, or change order workspaces. So for example, if you're setting up, you don't use items or change orders, you only use the file workspace. It might be confusing them because they're going into items and trying to find different items and they can't find files. So you can actually just hide those particular pages now. And the final option, again introduced in 2024.1, is using the page view. So similar, if you load up a folder and it's got hundreds and hundreds of files in, previously it would just list all of those files. It could take quite a little bit of time to load up. But now you can actually set it out so you can get a maximum of, say, 10 per page or 15 per page and use that page view within there so that you can kind of toggle through a little bit, kind of like when you're online shopping as well. So they're all the kind of features that are in the kind of what's new 2025 and a few about kind of what's new in the kind of 2024 point releases. So what I'm going to do now is hand over to my colleague Graham Harrison, who's just going to run through a little bit kind of behind the scenes of the move to .NET 8.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, so if you're not aware, there's been quite a change on the 2025 platforms. The backend API, which is used by all of the custom applications and add-ins for all of the Autodesk products, they've changed from the .NET 4.8 up to .NET Core 8. So what's affected on this? This is all of the AutoCAD products and all of the verticals, Inventor, Revit, Civil, and also Vault. In particular, Vault is slightly special. We'll come on to that. As I say, this is really affecting anything that's using the API. So that's anything to do with custom add-ins and anything linking into those applications, Vault being just one of those tools. So what is the difference then? Up to the previous version, 2024, all of the APIs were based on .NET Framework 4.8. Now, .NET Framework is a core component of the Windows 10, Windows 11 operating systems. That was all fully backwardly compatible with any of the previous .NET Framework versions. And although it's stopped being developed, it is still continued to be supported by Microsoft. And now that's stopped being developed at least 2 or 3 years ago now, so from 2021, and all development has switched to something called .NET Core. Now, .NET Core isn't backwardly compatible with .NET Framework 4.8. It's a completely set of libraries. .NET you can think of as sort of like the kind of engine behind it. It gives us common functionality, lots of functions around dialog boxes and directory browsing, file support, anything really that developers use is built on some kind of .NET in the Windows environment, at least anyway. One of those languages supported on .NET is C#. Only the later versions are supported on .NET Core. They're not supported on .NET 4.8. So being on .NET 4.8 limited us on what we could access, what we could use. The very latest version of .NET 8 is version 8. That's fairly recently released. But that's been around at least 6 months now and is the latest supported version and will be for the next couple of years. Okay, so why move to .NET Core? What's the reasons for doing it? Well, one of the big reasons is that .NET Core is cross-platform. Gives us cross-platform support. It makes it easier to communicate with other platforms. For example, the Autodesk platform services, Fusion Teams, etc., and also with the mobile apps. Because it's supported on all the latest languages and features, then it means we can use all of those latest advanced features. All of the later open source libraries and external third-party libraries are based on .NET Core. And it gives us a more consistent API across different platforms as well. So it allows us to have a unified code base, whether we're working on a web platform, desktop platform, mobile platform. As I say, one of the key things for Autodesk is this connection to the cloud. .NET Core gives us some cloud native features and reduces the amount of extra effort we have to make in our own code for connecting through to other APIs and gRPC, for example. Okay, so how does that affect us with Vault? Vault itself is an application that is built on .NET Framework. It's a .NET Framework 4.8 applications, unlike the other Autodesk platforms such as AutoCAD and Inventor, which have C++ as the core. Vault is built on .NET Framework 4.8 and continues to do so. That's the core product itself hasn't been switched over to .NET Core. But as far as API is concerned, we have 2 versions of the API available for Vault. So we have a .NET 4.8 API. So anything where we want to add extensions that plug in to the Vault interface, the Vault Explorer interface, they will use the .NET 4.8 libraries. Anything that we are connecting to Vault from an application that uses .NET Core as the API, such as Inventor, then we'll use the .NET 8 libraries to communicate with Vault. So there's 2 sets of libraries available to us with Vault, and the one you use depends on the type of application that we're connecting from. And so the key thing on this is any custom applications that you have, custom Vault jobs or job processor add-ins that you might have will need to be migrated to .NET 8 if they have to integrate with other apps such as in AutoCAD and Inventor. So that's a big change on that. There are tools within Visual Studio that allow you to migrate from framework to core fairly easily, but you do have to watch out for some of the interface functionality. Forms and everything are a lot different in .NET Core, and also any other reference libraries that you may use. So if you're using things that link into, say, Excel or PDF generation or anything like that, you just have to ensure that the version of those libraries matches the .NET version that you need to use of your Vault extensions. Okay. And obviously, it's quite a lot of work and a lot of testing to be done if you've got migration to carry out. So it's an ideal time to assess the functionality that you have, that you're using. If it's been in place for a while, is it still the right way of doing things? And look at what's available, which I'll pass you back to Jason to show you one example of that.
Lovely, thank you very much, Graham. So as Graham said, it kind of leads on nicely to what I'm going to be talking about next, and that is the Sevilla Vault product. Okay, so firstly, let's kind of have a look at why Sevilla Vault is a product, and why or how you might kind of utilize it. So during kind of standard Vault functionality, what you might experience is you may be creating kind of manual tasks, or you might be restricting you to save files in specific areas, or you might not be able to utilize specific properties correctly within there. So Sevilla Vault as a tool is a kind of tool that you can build on to help you kind of automate different products and different functions within Vault. So as you can see from this kind of a bit more in-depth life cycle, is that you can actually start to kind of automate features on different functions. And some of these tools and features are going to be what we're going to kind of run through within there. So one kind of core thing that Sevilla Vault allows you to do is it allows you to link to other or external systems. So whether that's an ERP system, okay, whether that's a PLM system, everything is about kind of automation within Sevilla Vault to help you kind of reduce the human error, keep the consistency in the business, making sure that you're doing everything in the same way and that you don't have to do it. You don't have to spend the time doing all of these manual tasks. You can just set a task off, it will automatically run, and that you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so a lot of these functions that you can see here are going to be some of the tools that we're going to run through. Now, a lot of the tools that you might see up on screen are some tools that are in the kind of core Vault product, but what we've done is we've seen that there's kind of some bits in there that you might need to improve on, and people have come to us with ideas and queries about how they can do this without kind of using the standard method. But what we've got is kind of a whole built-in interface that you can kind of customize from an administration tool. So again, it's not anything kind of coding. You don't have to kind of write coding into it. It's got a whole kind of user interface that you can create all of these kind of work flows and commands on, and we can work with you to help set up some of these kind of configurations as well within there. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is obviously the same first thing that we talked about in the at the start of the presentation, is lifecycle email notifications. So I'm not going to kind of re-go over what they are and what they do, but one thing, or the kind of the main difference between the core product option and the Sevilla Vault option, is that we found that if you're working on or sending emails to people, if you're sending it to a massive group of users and you're using it kind of day in, day out, you might be receiving 10, 15 emails a day. So you tend to kind of ignore those emails because you're getting in a group and you may not necessarily be the person that's checking or approving that particular work. So what we found is that you can set up a property. So for example, you can choose when, as the CAD user, that you're going to go, right, I want this particular person to check or approve or check and approve my work. So you'd fill in that property, and that property then links into your email, and then you can send in um, an email directly to that person. So you're getting more personalized emails or email notifications, so that you're not getting kind of hundreds and hundreds of emails from Vault coming through. So Savilia Vault kind of breaks it down another step and allows you to send kind of custom properties, different kind of templates within there. Again, we use kind of, or you can create templates based off HTML, so that you can get something coming through a little bit like you can see up on screen. As an email to show you different properties. You can put in links to the thin client and to the thick client as well within there, so that the people who are checking or approving the work, or again, if we move it back to release and different departments are in there, they can go into the thin client and view that file directly just from a one-click option. So another tool that we've got in the Savilia Vault package is a property update. So a couple of examples of this. Again, if you're checking and approving your work, you might want in your title block the name of the person who's checked the work to be stamped within there. Okay. So what you can do is you can, and obviously previously you'd have to open up the file and edit it, which you shouldn't be doing at your kind of check and approval state. So it'd have to sit in alternate places. So what you can do is you can get a property update to run within there, so the checker or the approver can be stamped as they move it through on that life cycle state. So if we go back to that example of we've got a work in progress, check, approval, and release state, going from check to approval, whoever's checked the work, it will stamp their name in that title block. Now, there's lots of other properties that you might want to update. You can also clear properties as well. So if you're going back from release back to work in progress because you're getting a new revision of the work, it can clear all the properties out so that it's ready for the next life cycle. Okay, again, stopping all of this kind of manual process within there to make sure you kind of keeping that consistency and making sure properties are all filled in at the appropriate times as well. You can also just fill in computed values. So if you're going from work in progress to check, you can make sure that all of the properties that are filled in that you're expecting to filled in are filled in with the specific value. So you can put dates in there, you can put any kind of computed value that you want to kind of fill in. Another option, which is again was introduced in the core product in the last release in 2024, was two eyes checking. Again, we've had this in Savilia Vault for kind of a number of years, and we were looking to um, uh, kind of improve on it. So we've kind of got this option for now four eyes checking. So what this is going to help you to do, and if you're going work in progress, check and approval, what you can have is to make sure that the person or the CAD user who's created the file isn't the same as the checker and isn't the same as the approver, but also that the checker isn't the same as the approver. So when it does those stamps, you have a different name on each, making sure you've got that kind of extra security in there to push through that release process, making sure that again you've got that auditable trail so that everyone else is aware of how you can then push that through and what's happened during those kind of life cycle steps. Okay, so moving into the data export area, so we can automate BOM export. Okay, so again, in the core product, you'd have to be using something like items. Again, it improves complexity if you use items because you've got kind of different security levels within there and things like that, or life cycle levels as well. But what the data export will do is it will just pull out the data from three different areas. So you can pull out computed data that you put into Savilia Vault, you can pull out the CAD data, and you can pull data out of Vault and link it into whichever format that you want. And they can come out in a CSV, an XML, or an SQL format. Okay, so if you do want to export them into an external ERP system, then you can directly take it out on maybe release of the data. It will export your BOM into the ERP system. If you want the ERP system to link both ways, you will need to go for, again, another one of our own products, which is Savilia PLM. So as I mentioned last week, the Savilia add-ons for the products, so Inventor, AutoCAD, and Vault, and the Toolkit, all have this kind of option to generate your secondary file formats. Where the option kind of or improves within Sevilla Vault is that you can generate extra formats than the kind of the core Vault functionality. And what's also great about it is you can publish it to specific areas. So in the core product, you can only generate a PDF, for example, to wherever the file is saved or to one kind of standard location, either in or outside of Vault. What you can do with your secondary file formats in Sevilla Vault is if you've got maybe a project folder with it that's called the project number, and then in there you've got maybe a PDF folder or an other documents folder. What you can do is you can generate the PDF into that project number folder because it will read the project number property within the folder and then go into the PDF folder and populate it in there. So again, previously you'd have to move that manually, and we see a lot of people have that on network shares, and that's where everyone accesses the data from, in that kind of PDF or that other documents folder. So what it will do is it will just automatically do that for you, saving that manual step of copying it from one place to another. And you also, as you can see up on screen, you get quite a few different file types that you can generate from Sevilla Vault as well. Okay, and that can be done both inside and outside of Vault into specific folders that you're looking to kind of generate within there. Well, that also kind of leads nicely on is to watermarking. So when you're moving files from release back to work in progress, if you've copied it into that network share folder, that file isn't being managed, that file isn't being controlled by anything. Okay, what you can do is it will then update and stamp it on there. So for example, if you're moving it from release back to work in progress and you're then working on the file, making the changes, that file or that PDF that you've generated is out of date, they might send that off to the order processing team, or someone in sales might send it off to a customer, and that file is out of date. So what watermarking will do is on release back to work in progress, you could then stamp it to say, right, this file is at work in progress, contact whoever the designer is, and you can fill in other properties, any properties that you want within there, in case any properties that are in Vault. So the core or the key one is state. Okay. Moving away from kind of the automation side, and we've got something with property data cards. So you'll see this is actually built directly into the Vault tab here. Okay, so when you select on a file and you've got all your history, your uses, and where used options, you can now fill in data within your property card within there. So again, what's kind of useful about this is that you can have specific cards with the specific properties that you need to fill in, making sure it kind of keeps that compliance and you're filling them in at the correct spot. And it also has this nice little save option, so it saves it back to the point. So you don't have to just fill in the property and it will automatically populate and create a new version. You can see it will just, once it saves it, it will generate that or update that particular property within there. You can also have properties that are read-only as well. So if you're just wanting to show a list of read-only properties and you don't want to see in your properties tab a full list of all your Vault system properties and all your custom Vault in CAD properties, then you can just show the kind of the key properties within there. So as you toggle through, you don't have to set it up in your views. You can just set it up within the property data card. Now, another kind of offshoot of Sevilla Vault is the job queue tool. So essentially, this is an add-on or a separate kind of product that comes with or is encompassed within the Sevilla Vault license, and it helps you or allows you to manage your job queue. Okay, so what that does is it allows you to remove certain jobs from within your job queue. So you'll know that if you're managing your job queue on a daily basis and you've got lots coming in, you might have things like non-tip versions where the files become out of date, but actually you just need to clear that function out. So what you can do is just remove that particular function within there, and it will remove all of them, helping you kind of saves you time on managing the job queue. It also gives you kind of list of error jobs as well. So if you do want to kind of focus down a little bit on there, it'll bring up a log file and things like that. So it gives you a little bit more detail. And also it allows you to restart the job processor. Okay, so it will help you keep in that maximizing the performance of the job process. So again, you're not having to do that manually. It's just automatically getting in there and restarting the job processor when people are maybe not using the software. So all of these processes are run through something called action sets. So if we have a look, we might have a on maybe approval to released in our life cycle, we might have 5 functions that we want to generate. We might want to create our secondary file format, so PDF, DXF, and DWG. We might want to export our BOM to an ERP system, and we might want to update a property. Now, obviously, it's going to matter which order that we do this in. So, for example, we don't want to create the PDF first and then update the properties, because the PDF properties are going to be out of date with the normal properties. Okay. So what we have is something called action sets, and you can create as many action sets as you like. Okay, but what it will do is it will move the particular files, or you can set it up so you can choose an order of how you want this to run within there to make sure that everything's kind of functioning in the correct way. And what also is great about that is it creates only one job in the job processor. So again, you can kind of see a split down, and it pulls, as I say, a bit more detail out into the log file so that you can kind of run these tasks. And you can set different priorities for different tasks as well within there. So kind of overall, the Sevelia Vault as a product is an automation tool to help you take the manual aspects out and keep the consistency throughout your kind of company, and also reduce kind of human error of just missing or not following kind of procedures within there. So if you are interested in hearing more about Sevelia Vault, or wanting more of an active demo, then feel free to contact myself, or contact Graham, or contact your account manager, and we can look to kind of give you some demos. Or if you're interested in hearing more about anything kind of what's new in the product, then, as I say, feel free to contact us. So thank you for attending today, guys. Has anyone got any questions? Emma, do you know if we've got any questions today?
No, just a couple of thank yous. Oh, I have one question actually. Hi, Jason. What is the service spec for Vault 2025? And that's from Patrick Neville.
What I can do, Patrick, I can send that across to you. Actually, if I just bring it up on screen. Okay, so I can just, if I just leave that one up on screen for you, they should be able to see that. See that all okay, Emma?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, perfect. So I believe from the last release, it's just the Server 2019. But if you do just search for server spec for Vault 2025, it will bring those details up within there.
Yeah, just to add to that, Jason, the change on this version is SQL Server 2022 is now supported, which wasn't on the previous version. Windows 2016 support dropped off on 2024.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Okay, lovely. If there's no more questions, we'll finish it up there. And as I say, if you do have any questions, feel free to contact me. And yeah, have a good day, guys.